to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see.
This is some amazing video that you're seeing from CNN election night. And I want to go back and show you a little bit about this clip. First, I want to explain what's happening in this clip. What's happening in this clip is this is the live feed from Clarity Elections coming through the Associated Desk or Decision Desk HQ. So this is the live feed. You're seeing the database that Clarity has as it gets updated with votes, okay? And right now, oh, and this little ribbon at the bottom, this is generated by CNN. And they update this a second after they get the update from Clarity up here. So let's just look. Right now, Andy Beshear, who is the guy that upset Matt Bevin, the governor at the time, Andy Beshear has 673,948 votes. That ties to what the ribbon from CNN says. Same thing with Matt Bevin, 662,235. 662,235. Now, let me take you through, and real quick, I'm going to run it again. You're going to see, if you're watching just this gold, you're going to see a flash update, and then this guy's face fills the page, and then I'm going to show you what you really missed. So here we go. Watch the gold. The update's coming. Boom, there it updates, and now here's this guy. Now let me show you what you missed. We're going to drag this back frame by frame. And so here we are before the update, and now I'm going to start walking you forward. Watch the gold. Here comes the update from Clarity. Boom. There it is. So now the update, Andy Beshear has 674,508 votes. And look down below, Andy Beshear had 673,948. They haven't had a chance to update the ribbon because this is in split seconds we're looking now. So Andy Beshear has just gained 560 votes. That makes sense. That's what happens as more votes come in, right? Let's look at Matt Bevin. He now has 661,675. But look down below. He did have 662,235 at the exact same second that Andy Beshear has gone up 560 votes. Matt Bevin has gone down 560 votes. This is vote switching in the computer. And by the way, between the 560 gain and 560 loss, you have just seen 25% of the loss amount of this race happen in front of your very eyes.
Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President President Trump just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Well, Cindy, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated, probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
That's called intervention in our elections, irrespective of, I guess if they were Russia or China, we'd refer to them as meddling. But it's intervention, and it's also crooked as hell, rigging this election no matter the jurisdiction, whether it's Michigan, Georgia, wherever it might be. What can we do about it? Because the Department of Justice, I mean, if there's evidence of that program, why not just turn it over to the Justice Department and say, and go to the courts and say, this has got to stop now. Here is the way in which it was done.
Well, we've been trying to get their attention, and we're going to try even harder, and we'll have to put it in a federal lawsuit, apparently, and get as much of it out as we possibly can. We have some excellent witnesses on the issue. But this is coup 5.0, Lou. I mean, there was no reason to think that the Democratic operatives who spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, taking us through a special counsel operation for 2 years, trying an impeachment hoax, the apocalypse hoax, the obstruction hoax, wouldn't go so far as to create every means of voter fraud they could come up with to steal this election. That's exactly what happens. The president must fight back now in every way, shape, or form. We cannot let this republic be stolen by the Democratic operatives who want to destroy the republic and make it a socialist country where they continue to line their pockets with these backdoor global deals like the Biden laptop from hell exposes.
The fight for a legitimate vote count continues. The president is prepared to file legal cases. There are investigators looking into Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, maybe several other states. There are a lot of areas that are open, that are contestable. And in the meantime, Joe Biden, based on the Associated Press, has declared himself president and is moving to put together a so-called cabinet. Now, I'll come back to the vote fraud in a minute, but I want to give you a sense of a bigger picture in which this is occurring, because you cannot lose sight of the strategic fight that actually defines why there was vote fraud to ensure that Biden would become the president. And this goes back to the City of London, which is where the initial attacks on President Trump came from that led to Russiagate, the impeachment fight, and so on. And it's clear that the City of London is pushing hard to make sure that Joe Biden is the president and Trump is eliminated from the scene. Now, we mentioned this the other day. The Economist, the paper of the City of London, or the magazine of the City of London, pronounced the need for a Biden presidency. The Financial Times had exactly the same thing. And what's behind this? Well, there are two things. There's the strategic crisis and the move toward a global reset. Let me start with the global reset, because it's clear now that whether it's the International Monetary Fund's Georgieva, or whether it's Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank, or top officials of the US Federal Reserve, they're talking about moving ahead with a global digital currency. And this has several aspects to it, but one of which is to give them the power to inflate the currency, to continue with quantitative easing, to bail out the speculators, and over time create an inflation that will enable them to pay off the debt with cheap money. At the same time, stealing what's left of the funds going to the physical economy, and possibly including the theft of your pension funds, your commercial bank accounts, and so on, to be replaced by a global digital currency which will be placed in your account by the central bank, which will also control national spending policy. We have besides the City of London praising the Biden victory, alleged victory, you have on Wall Street this memo we reported last week from JP Morgan Chase, which welcomed a Biden presidency because it said Biden will do a lockdown which will require a new bailout, and that this new bailout will lead to an appreciation of the stock market. Now, the part of the global digital currency in this reset, what Mark Carney, the former head of the Bank of England, and others called a financial regime change, part of it is to fund the Green New Deal. And this was presented by Prince Charles, remember the British, the Davos World Economic Forum, Carney from the Bank of England, now with the UN as a climate guru. It came from BlackRock, which unfortunately has a position doling out the funds from the relief plan in the US, and Michael Bloomberg, who's the former UN guru on climate change, and who spent more than $100 million to try to get Biden into the White House. And what's the policy of the Green New Deal? End the US scientific and technological orientation. Shut it down. No more research and development. No more funding going into production, goods producing sector, improving agriculture, none of that. All of that will be replaced by a globalized free trade system. Secondly, take down U.S. energy production. That was clear from what Biden said in the second debate and in a number of other comments he's made. Third, shut down President Trump's Artemis program, the new space program which has the intention of putting a man or woman on the moon by 2024, which has the technologically progressive elements that were there with NASA under John Kennedy. No, that cannot be allowed. That's got to be shut down, according to the City of London. Put the U.S. back into the Paris Climate Accord, which Biden has promised will be one of his first acts by executive order. Remember how the Democrats said Trump shouldn't be issuing executive orders? Well, get ready for a whole slew of them. And finally, more of the anti-sovereign free trade agreements. Now, what we're seeing is a color revolution targeting the United States. The intention is to overturn what Trump was trying to do, to reassert a position of American sovereignty, not as America only, but as the sovereign nation that will encourage sovereignty for all other nations. Now, while we're in this fight in the United States, let me give you an example of what's happening elsewhere. There have been regime change coups overturned in a number of countries, including Argentina, Mexico. The president of Mexico is refusing to welcome Joe Biden. In fact, he said he knows about vote fraud because his 2006 election was overturned by vote fraud in Mexico. So he said he's still standing by to see what President Trump is going to find. Bolivia. There was a State Department coup on behalf of the banks to throw out the elected government there. Well, the people voted, and what did they do? They overwhelmingly brought back the Evo Morales regime. And in Belarus, there's a fight that's underway that Chatham House, on behalf of British interests, is trying to overturn that government, which would then open a channel for NATO on the Russian border in another country besides Ukraine. Now, this brings us to the strategic danger. Biden is a captive of the war hawks, besides being a war hawk himself. But he's talking about people like Michelle Flournoy, Susan Rice as key people that he would bring in. They're already floating a whole bunch of names. Every single one of them is a supporter of regime change wars, the so-called responsibility to protect, which is an excuse for an imperial geopolitical strategy. Now, you're not worried about the danger here? Let me tell you about an interview done by the British chief of their defense staff, General Nick Carter. He spoke with Sky News, and here's what he said. He warned of the effects of a global financial meltdown, which he said may spark a, quote, new world war. He went on to say that regional conflicts are going to continue. You could see an escalation that would lead to miscalculation, which could lead to a, quote, full-blown war, unquote. This is the head of the defense sector of the United Kingdom, which has great influence still in NATO, but also very close relationship with sections of the U.S. military. This is part of the military-industrial complex coming out of Britain. So keep that in mind. Global financial meltdown triggering instability and crises and possibly a new world war. Now, where are they talking about? Look at Azerbaijan and Armenia. The president of Azerbaijan today said that there is a way out of the conflict, but the Armenians aren't taking it. Therefore, they're going to continue fighting. Now, this could spill over because Russia has Russia's actually got agreements with both countries, but they have troops in Armenia. Turkey is supporting the Azerbaijan offensive, and they're supporting it including by importing Syrian mercenary jihadists to fight on the side of Azerbaijan. The British defense minister was recently in Turkey and promised weapons. Now, Turkey itself is going through financial instability. Erdogan fired the central bank chief there last week. That's the fourth central bank chief he's fired. And the finance minister offered his resignation. The finance minister of Turkey is Erdogan's son-in-law. And we're seeing a collapse of the lira, the Turkish lira, collapse of living standards. And here's another case where a leader would gladly welcome a war to take people's minds off the collapse of the economy. What else do you have? You have terrorism in Europe. 3 major events in the last 10 days, including 2 in France and 1 in Austria. Where do these come from? They're the results of endless wars from the North Caucasus, coming through Turkey, from the Balkans. But you have a continuation of refugees who are terrorists going into Western European countries. Now, on the Biden so-called election, the Russian Duma, that's their parliament, Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Leonid Slutsky, said, "Do not expect change for the better under Biden." The Russians are clear on this. As much as they had problems with sanctions and other things from Trump, they knew that Trump wanted to work with Putin. They have no such expectation for Biden, who served in the Obama administration, which turned Russia into an enemy. Now, here's another comment. Stoltenberg, the NATO General Secretary, he said, "I warmly welcome the election of Joe Biden, a strong supporter of NATO and the transatlantic relationship." Well, not surprisingly, President Trump has been a strong critic of NATO, and NATO, which intends, on behalf of these British geopolitical interests, to extend NATO eastward to the Russian borders and into the Indo-Pacific region. That's why they're welcoming Biden, a war hawk who will support the full extent of confrontation with Russia and China, including a possibility of war. Now let's just finish quickly with the fight against election fraud. Watch the short clip from Kirk Wiebe, a former technical expert with the National Security Agency, which goes through the program to change elections that in the past was used in foreign countries, but could have been deployed in the United States. And that's the hammer, which has a special application called Scorecard.
The hammer and the application that works with it, called Scorecard, is designed to change votes on the fly, as they are reported by tallying locations in all precincts and counties, whatever applies to your state, as totals are reported via the internet. The data is grabbed in real time, changed, and sent on its way. And this happens in microseconds. I'm not going to go into the technical details of how that happens. Just realize that the data is changed so quickly in the favor of whatever candidate it's told to favor that no one notices a delay and just accepts the total. And this has been going on in numerous states, to include battleground states, during this whole election. And it is still going on as votes are being counted and reported up echelon. Now, this evening, lawyer Sidney Powell, the personal attorney of General Michael Flynn, and someone who is known to the President of the United States, appeared on Lou Dobbs this evening and reported this fact. And she added the fact that data has been obtained from the whistleblower who built the capability, Mr. Dennis Montgomery, who is a national hero in this matter, having made this data available. There is forensic evidence showing what data was changed, where it came from, and where it was going to. And a record is kept. That means there is direct, solid evidence of voter fraud perpetrated by the people that are operating this hammer scorecard combination to change the votes of the citizens of this country. And in my way of thinking, if that is true, Mr. Trump will have no problem in court overthrowing the kind of results we are seeing reported.
Now, I'll leave you with this. The chairman of the Federal Election Commission, named Trey Traynor, said that he believes there's evidence of fraud in Pennsylvania. And he highlighted the fact that no observers were allowed. And this was observers who could oversee the counting of the mail-in ballots, many of which may be fraudulent. In fact, there are videos of what appears to be election judges changing the ballots. And what Traynor said is that without observers, I do believe that there is voter fraud taking place. Otherwise, they would allow observers to go in. Now, we had a discussion Saturday. It's also up on the LaRouchePAC.com website with Barbara Boyd, myself, Kirk Wiebe, Dennis Speed, and Helga Zepp-LaRouche, where we took up this question of the fraud and how you can identify fraud, what the president must do, and what his supporters must do. People are rallying. People are committed to the fight. The president is not backing down. And on top of that, the president has begun to once again attack Wall Street. So if you think back to what I said, the financial interests want Biden in to move to a global digital currency, a central banker dictatorship, and secondly, more wars. That's what we're facing. So don't sit back and accept it. Get active with us, work with us, and that's the only way we can guarantee that we can make sure there's an honest vote count in the United States.
most financial experts agree that we're going to revert back to the gold standard to back our currency. Here's where I'm going with this, Patriots. Most of you know I've been selling authentic 24-karat gold Trump banknotes for nearly 2 years now. And most of the people who purchase these amazing notes end up buying more of them after they get them. I carry these notes in the $100, $1,000, and $1 million denominations, still readily available on my website at jamesredpillsamerica.com/24K. But for the first time since I started selling these awesome 24-karat gold Trump banknotes, I've acquired a very limited supply of the just-released 24-karat gold Trump 2020 banknote collection series. And you can get yours now for only $129.95 with free shipping and tracking in the United States. Wow! These amazing 5-piece collector sets contain the brand new, just released 24-karat gold Trump 2020 banknote series with a separate 24-karat certificate of authenticity, proving that these awesome collector's items are indeed worth their weight in gold. The detail in these one-of-a-kind collector's banknotes are by far the highest I've seen yet. Now here's the best part about this amazing offer, Patriots. If you act now and secure your order today, I will include the rest of the series of banknotes at no additional charge. That makes this the most complete, authentic 24-karat gold Trump banknote collections available anywhere today. That's right. You'll get the entire 5-piece collection plus one each of the $100 denomination, the $1,000 denomination, and the $1 million denomination 24-karat gold authentic banknotes along with your order. This collection, when sold separately, are $199 value. Yours today for only $129.95 with free shipping in the United States. You can get them right now on my website at jamesredpillsamerica.com/24K. Don't wait, Patriots. I have a very limited supply of these banknote collections for only $129.95 while supplies last. Show your support for President Trump and support James Red Pills America while securing your wealth today. Visit jamesredpillsamerica.com/24K today. That's jamesredpillsamerica.com/24K.